This episode is sponsored by Furniture Box. Check them out in the description below.
What's something that people don't know about the supermarket industry?
The supermarkets are never going to be healthy.
Sonny Drinkwater, the founder of Well Easy.
Sonny Drinkwater,
the founder and CEO of Well Easy.
I have done another shop on Well Easy.
Just general awareness of ingredients and nutrients. It's just been completely lost.
Guys our age, where do they start and what are the sort of the basics that they should be doing?
Exercise is so important to healthy living. That's the biggest word in health. Well, it's just fads, right?
Where do you think that most membership-based businesses go wrong?
You go wrong if
Costco's model.
that's the more sustainable way to shop, right? It's to kind of buy healthy less often, but buy bigger shops. Communicating why we exist is a big one for us. The reason kind of for starting any of this in this space is that we both kind of had our own sort of health struggles and health battles. Realised that it was just far too difficult, too expensive, and too confusing to actually know what's healthy.
Why do you think no one's done this before?
We kind of told a little bit of a lie at the start, a pure garage startup through and through. Made a mistake very early on.
If you were to do that again, how would you avoid that?
In hindsight now, the first thing I would have done is...
Welcome to the Ground Floor Podcast, a podcast where we ask successful people exactly how they did it. Our guest today is Sonny Drinkwater, the founder of Well Easy, which is an online supermarket that specialises in healthy foods that also implements environmentally friendly solutions. So thanks for being here, Sonny.
Thank you very much for having me.
Nice
Excited
to
for the
meet you.
conversation as well.
No worries. So obviously we know what you do, but for anyone that doesn't, do you want to dive into a bit more detail?
Yeah, so we are, as you kind of summed up, we're an online membership store. Similar, kind of very inspired by that kind of Costco style membership, right? We set up with a mission to make healthy living easy and affordable to everyone. That's been the mission since day one. We didn't know how to do that at the start. We kind of iterated through a few different business models and stumbled on this kind of membership online grocery store. So we have about 4,000 products, curated by our kind of team in-house. So very chosen for sort of health values and the ingredients they have. All in one place, up to 35% of RRP and delivered to your door.
Interesting, okay. And can you give us a bit of a pretense to what you were doing before you set this up with Josh?
Yes, so we, Josh and I have got a long history with each other. So we've been friends since, I would say sort of 9 or 10. Played football with each other growing up, so went to the same school sort of thing. Went off to university, and the reason kind of for starting any of this in this space is that we both kind of had our own sort of health struggles and health battles, which seems to be the case for a lot of people in health and wellness, right? The irony is that it sometimes takes getting unwell to appreciate just how nice it is to be well.
That's very true.
So we kind of, it was a mix of, on this path of kind of following nutrition and ingredients and thinking how we can improve ourselves, but also we were building things at the time. So, previously I've had like a positive social media startup that I tried to launch at university.
Oh, cool.
I had a clothing startup. Josh has had a clothing startup.
I feel like clothing is always the one people go to.
Yeah,
I had a clothing business a long time ago.
I think
it's
it's a good one to start with, I think, because it's kind of like, simple would be the wrong word. So yeah, we'd been doing things, both of us. Josh's one was quite successful at university, actually. It was kind of like, he'd made these it was called like Selly Oak tees, and instead of like the North Face logo, it just said Selly Oak. Okay. And he did it for Supreme as well. And it kind of really took off on campus.
Oh, okay.
So both kind of doing various things, and then had this health journey, which we can kind of dive more into, but realised that it was just far too difficult, too expensive, and too confusing to actually know what's healthy, to buy what's healthy, and to do that easily. So didn't know where we'd start, but the first business we actually launched was a healthy B2B snacking business. So I'd worked kind of previously in a few B2B startups, so I knew roughly how to get Sales Navigator set up on LinkedIn. I knew how to kind of get the gist of a bit of a sales funnel going, if you want to even call it a sales funnel. Pulled on some conversations there, and just really simple startup, snacks in a box, delivered to offices. Then the pandemic hit, and everyone decided obviously they were going to work from home, because of COVID, etc. And we became very quickly, we shifted from an ability to kind of connect with offices and kind of share content and share stuff in those offices. We became kind of a one-off gift packaging service that was like the last in, first out type perk at work, right? So just if you're feeling like you want to give your kind of employees something, you give them a snack box. Yeah. And that was what we became. Okay. And we really struggled to make a lot of repeat revenue from it. And we kind of lost that connection to what we were trying to do, the mission of making healthy living easy and affordable to people. So as that business was kind of ticking itself over, it was profitable. We decided that we would kind of look at other business models in the space and see where we could go with some of the cash we were making. Not that it was making anywhere near the sort of cash that we'd want to make, but it was making some cash. And then we decided to kind of pivot to this membership style model.
So with the membership style model, because obviously a lot of supermarkets, mainstream supermarkets like Sainsbury's, Waitrose, whatever, they don't have a membership that you pay monthly for. So it's a different model. So can you sort of explain a little bit how that works and what you're paying for?
Yeah, so there's kind of two choices with the membership. You either get an annual membership or a monthly membership, but the vast majority, like 98% of people choose annual, and there's kind of reasons for that. So firstly, obviously, it's £48 for the year is the annual membership. So you pay that up front, but you do get a 30-day free trial. So you can try it free for 30 days. And what that trial will do is exactly like you say, like it will allow you to be a member and experience what that's like, which is basically you get up to 35% off across the range of products. So some products could be 20%, some could be 30%, some could be 10%, depending on what the range is. So you can shop and start saving money and see how that looks, which is kind of the main benefit of the membership itself. But it's also that kind of convenience side of the membership, because we have that membership and we have the money up front, there's a lot of kind of efficiencies we can pass over to the customer. So we can curate the range, we can, get shipping quite fast, we can pass the prices as savings over to the customer, etc. And we can build a very kind of loyal activist community, which drives more awareness and sales through the right brands, if that makes sense. So that's kind of why we chose that model. But yeah, the real benefit of the membership is the prices.
And do you have a similar model to Costco in that you need to buy in bulk to do it?
That's the mentality we go for. So yeah, that tends to be the case. When you obviously save people money, they'll tend to buy more of it. So that's exactly what we try and encourage. And also that's the more sustainable way to shop, right? Is to kind of buy healthy less often, but buy bigger shops.
Yeah.
So we're kind of you go local for fresh, you go local for kind of meats and things that are there, but you come to us for your healthy staples. So anything from nuts, seeds, could be just specific snacks, could be collagen peptides, supplements, home beauty. We have a breadth of the range. But yeah, just your healthy staples you'll get from us.
What's the average order frequency of a customer? Is it like kind of, they do a shop once a week, once a month?
No, it's a lot longer. So it's about every 6 weeks.
Interesting.
Every 6 weeks, but quite a big sort of order size is what we go into.
Right. And what determines what is a healthy food? Because I'm sure that's quite a controversial topic. So when you say you're a health food store, do you have people saying, well, this is a health food store, why do you not sell this? And vice versa, this is a health food store, why are you selling this?
You definitely do. And we've tried to, the thing that's becoming clearer over the years, especially in the health space, is it's very personal. So what's good for one person is kind of not as good for the other person. So the approach we take is that we're kind of a facilitator of what healthy means to you in the best way possible. So we try and kind of stay like a bit of an aggregator, right? And so we kind of, we've got people that are gluten-free, some people that want to follow a keto diet, some people want to follow a vegan diet, for example. So whatever their reason is for shopping, we should be the destination for that. But with that, again, it comes the curation, and that's where the difficult part comes in. But, we look extensively at kind of the ingredients that we have on per product. We have like an internal list of stuff that your conventional things, artificial sweeteners and things that we just won't have in any product. We look at supply chains, so we see if something is as sustainable as it can be, both in packaging and also in the supply chain that it has itself. If there is a new brand that, is kind of fresh to the market, is trying to do good things, but might need some kind of work on their supply chain side, we won't necessarily just kind of get, not allow them onto the platform, because we want to encourage that economies of scale that will help them to do so. We look for things to be organic, or even better is regenerative. We're believers in regenerative agriculture, but mostly we try and get as many products as we can organic. We're trying to kind of approach that kind of clean system. But the best way we do it, to be honest, in terms of the product choices, we actually crowdsource a lot. So we get all of our members to kind of suggest products the whole time, right? And if stuff comes on and doesn't sell well, we get rid of it straight away. So it's just as important we eliminate products as it is that we kind of bring the right ones on. So that's how we kind of curate that range. And, we're at 4,000 now, probably get to about 6,000, but we want to stay in that smaller curation side because it has a lot of benefits in terms of operations and how you scale.
And how do you manage stock purchasing then for something like that?
So the model is kind of, we've got a bit of a unique blend in our model. So we will buy directly from brands and kind of hold inventory of products and brands that are very popular, that we know we can sell through. We might want to get a better margin on them, and you get a better margin by going direct to brands themselves. So we always try and work directly where we can. But in the odd case that there might be a product that maybe doesn't sell as frequently, we have wholesalers in which that, say if you ordered today, we would order from a wholesaler, come into us, we'd pick and pack, and then we'd ship it back out. So it's kind of a blend of dropship plus inventory, if that makes sense. So very kind of lean in terms of how we do that. But yeah, kind of conventional retail, but slight difference with the dropshipping.
I'm with you. And can you just then take us back to the start of actual Well Easy itself, kind of how you set it up and sort of built the initial sort of infrastructure of it?
Indeed. So very familiar story probably to a lot of other people out there in the sense of pure garage startup through and through. Fortunately, my parents are very supportive. Not so much, well, from a financial sense, they gave us a little bit to start, but by no means kind of massive amounts, but they gave us the space and the support to start in terms of the garage, right?
How much did you start with on that, just on that point out of interest?
We took out, I think it was 5,000 worth of loans each, so you get the startup loans.
Yes.
My dad loaned me 2,000. His boss actually loaned me another 2,000.
Okay.
And Josh's dad loaned him 2,000, and I think Josh had another family member that also loaned him 2,000. So we both started with, I think, 9,000 each. So that was kind of all the capital we had at the start. Made a mistake very early on. in the sense that we went straight to a wholesaler and took a load of inventory of stuff we thought could sell, tied up a lot of money in stock. I
feel like that's probably quite a common problem with a product-based business.
Definitely.
It's like, great, we've got the stuff, we buy the products, and then we just sell it.
Yeah. Well, there's if you've got a product, it's kind of one thing, but when you've got kind of 3,000 different products that you think are going to sell and some of them don't sell, you're just like, oh my god, that's like the only bit of money we had tied up in stock. So made a little bit of a mistake with that at the start, but still managed to kind of sell through and find stuff that kind of sold and didn't waste too much of that stock. But
also, just on that quickly, because obviously given the fact that it's food, I'm guessing some of it's perishable, so it's also like if you spunked your money on that and then it's going off and you're not selling it, then it really is just money that you've burned.
That would be the case, except we made the decision very early on that it's all non-perishables. All ambient, all non-perishables for that exact reason,
Smart
right?
move,
So longer shelf life, get less wastage that comes with it. So all ambient foods is what we do.
So just again on that sort of mistake that you sort of touched on, then how would you, if you were to do that again, how would you avoid that? Let's say someone else is out there listening to this, thinking of setting up a business similar to this. How would you actually go about avoiding that mistake and not purchasing too much of the wrong stock in a way?
Spending more time looking at models and other people in the space, if even better, speaking to someone that's in that space, that's done something similar, I would say is probably the best way to go about it. You know, we're quite quick, Josh and I, to kind of build and execute and do things, and we still probably would have done that. If I went back, I still would have started and done it. But I think, in hindsight now, the first thing I would have done is really got someone that kind of is either built in the space, done something similar, and just pick their brain about it. Because, not to take everyone's words as like advice the whole time, but when it's someone that's quite domain specific to you, they definitely know the pitfalls. So that would have been the first thing I would have done. And then looked at other models that have kind of set up in the space, in similar space. So spend a lot of time listening to podcasts of similar businesses that might be in the US or wherever they are. Try and find their founding stories and kind of see if you can get a gist of roughly how they established that before kind of running into it and making those mistakes. But fortunately for us, it wasn't too costly. I think we would have clocked if it was like more than, I think it was about 4,000 we put into stock. Right. But if it was like 10,000 or 15,000, I think we would have been like, this is probably a bit of a big upfront investment. Yeah.
So once you've got all the stock, is it literally a case of you build a website and then you're just going to people saying, hey, do you want to pay a monthly subscription to be able to buy our products? Because I feel like that must be a hard thing to sell from the beginning.
So in this day and age, it's even easier, right? So you don't even have to build a website. You just put a Shopify up.
Right.
So we had a Shopify website, uploaded all the products on there with good descriptions, etc. We then thought exactly as you thought. We had the store, we had the stock. It was like, how are we going to get in front of customers? What we soon realised, which still to this day it kind of proves true, is that a lot of people shop online for those products because they're quite hard to find in conventional retail anyway, which therefore means that Google Shopping is quite a good channel to actually acquire customers through. The hard chance of Google Shopping is, so we throw up some Google Shopping ads, and if you've got Biona coconut milk or you've got Hunter and Gather collagen peptides that people are Googling anyway, you're going to kind of drive traffic to the store. The hard part then was the membership. So we had a lot of people coming. We had a 30-day free trial at the start. A lot of people coming through, placing those first orders. Then it was a case of how do we articulate that membership is going to come out after 30 days, and this is exactly what it's for. Right. So that was kind of difficult at the start, but I think when you're starting any business, you tend to get some very passionate customers at first. And I think even if they weren't at that moment in time, had the same shopping habit that we'd want them to, or the shopping intention, which was like a big order there and then, they might have come for just one product. They understood what we were doing in the space. So they tended to come back after 30 days. So we kind of won a few people back that way. Okay. And then we invested in improving the flow, which was the main thing, improving that membership flow, right, of articulating where that comes in. So that was how it started that.
And how did you actually build the relationship with those first few customers that you had?
So they came through on Shopify. Shopify is great, obviously, for tagging most journeys. You get obviously the customer details. We made sure, I don't know whether that you were allowed to do this or not. We kind of told a little bit of a lie at the start, in the sense that we said we need your phone number in case there's any order issues. The main premise of that was that I could just call every single person that ordered and just be like, tell me who you are, tell me more about you, what you're buying and stuff. So that was kind of how we established it. And I think the first, to this day, probably the first 20 members of Well Easy, like I still have on WhatsApp, so I still message them.
Wow.
Right? So they're very cool. So we were very close at the start. And I think when you have a membership, that's someone that takes out the membership and actually understands what it does and what the value of that is. It is a close relationship anyway. So they do feel connected because it's like a buying club, right? It's that sort of mentality. It's like to some extent, we're trying to build an uprising in the food space, the health food space. So when people understood that, they were quite open to what we were doing. And again, I think another point we'll come on to, we did spend a lot of time thinking, are we solving a core problem for customers? And I think when you solve that for a customer, they're far more likely to build a relationship with you anyway, because they're just so grateful for what you're doing. So that's definitely how we felt in the early days.
Yeah, I think when it's a pain point that you specifically have been through as well, you know that there's a problem in the market at that for that particular
100%.
issue.
Where do you think that most membership-based businesses go wrong? Because it's an increasingly popular model. You get monthly subscription revenue. It's more predictable income. Like, it's a really juicy model. Where do you think most people in that niche go wrong, or in that model?
I think you go wrong because it's kind of like two streams to some extent, isn't it? It's like they're paying for the subscription, but that subscription is tied into the value of the actual service you deliver. And I think what a lot of people do is potentially they might get copyright or sales right on how to sell a subscription, but the actual underlying service doesn't do what you kind of say it will do.
Right.
And I think unless you can communicate that upfront in terms of where that, how valuable that service actually is. And for us, like kind of we just said, right, it's a very simple solution, but we know it's a massive pain point because people in our space, they shop at multiple places to buy these products, right? They're going like high and low. They go Sainsbury's for one, they go Cardiff for another, they go to the local health store for another, right? So knowing that pain point was what made it really valuable. And then I guess the difference between us and maybe some other subscriptions that, and they still work well, but for us, food isn't a high margin industry. It never has been. We didn't know this at the start. It's kind of fortunate that we kind of replicated some models that we saw like Costco, etc. And now we know why they did it, which is like the main thing. But food is a low margin industry. When you're also having discount food, it's even lower margin, right? But the benefit of having an annual membership like we have is that you get a chunk of cash flow up front. So we're actually profitable on a customer after 30 days, like every single customer, which doesn't usually exist in the food space. So it's a tougher sell and a tougher grind, meaning that you need to solve even more of a problem on the delivery and the service side. But when you do, it actually is quite a good model for customers in this space. So it's a slower build, but it's a healthier build, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I think memberships, unless that service behind it is of enough value to the customer, perceived value as well, then I think that's where they struggle, because you get very unhappy customers that word of mouth just goes down. And you need strong word of mouth for the membership. Very strong word of mouth. It's a hard sell.
No, I bet.
I wanted to touch on the marketing side of things, because I think there's a very interesting perspective about the healthy food community, which is that it is typically, you think a place like Waitrose or Holland & Barrett, and it feels exclusionary, I think, to a lot of people, that it's going to be too expensive. Whether that's the case or not, how have you navigated through that from a marketing perspective in terms of finding customers? Do you stick to a certain range? Do you try to make it as broad as possible? How have you tackled that?
So the question is about like kind of the accessibility side, right?
About the accessibility, and then also how you apply that in terms of the kind of customers that maybe you seek.
Yeah, so interestingly, health and wellness is a notoriously expensive industry, meaning that it often is the case that you do get your kind of your yoga goers, your Pilates goers that can afford to do this, right? People that live in London, right, can afford to live and spend on healthy food. And to be honest, when we started, we didn't know who the customer would be. We kind of assumed that may well be the customer, right? The kind of the people that genuinely afford it, even though we had the savings. What we soon found out by kind of understanding the market a bit more and understanding what we were doing is that there's this whole heap of people today in the UK from many different income brackets, various different income brackets, postcodes that you just wouldn't even kind of expect or believe, that for one reason or another, and it usually is kind of a very strong reason, they will shop and look for healthier products. And you've got your conventional kind of, as I say, your yoga or your Pilates goer, but then you've got these pockets of people that they might even have diabetes, they might have cancer, they might have a gluten intolerance, they might, for whatever reason it possibly could be, they're making better choices for their life. And that really kind of varies in terms of the income bracket, and they became quite fast, and it's still to this day, they're our strongest cohort customers, right? So we really did have to make Well Easy accessible, or as accessible as it can be to many other people, which is why early on we introduced this match membership program. So for every member that signs up and pays the membership, we actually sponsor a free one for an NHS worker, low-income families, students, teachers, or armed forces veterans. So that's a really
nice touch.
I love that.
So that was our way of kind of thinking, look, we'll give you the savings as a member, we'll make the money from the other people that can afford it for now, and then you guys get this year for free to kind of explore it, buy when you like, and not by any means do they buy as often as other people, but they still have access to do so. So that's definitely one way. And then I think, you're right, like curating the range, right? There's kind of a blend between, you want to have specialist products that are quite hard to find elsewhere. That's the value of us. People come back for those products. But you also want to have products that are kind of healthier switches to what is the convention.
Yeah.
So your organic milks or your plant-based milks or your coconut milk or your pastas or your rices, right? And making those swaps easier. So having good savings on those products has allowed us to have more people that maybe come from different income brackets, etc., to afford those products and kind of place the order for those shops. So that's really kind of who the customer demographics are. But of course, we still have a very strong, quite affluent London-based community that are into their yoga, into their health, just the same as anyone in this market. But we've really tried to stick to those two groups.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
One of the things I actually wanted to ask you about was Costco's model is purposely set up in a way whereby they constantly rearrange their store. So you go in and whatever you're looking for isn't in the same place that it was last time you went there. So it means you end up walking around and you end up purchasing things you don't actually intend to buy when you go in. How do you set that up from an online perspective? Because that must be quite difficult to replicate.
Well, it is and it isn't difficult. It is difficult because at the stage we're at, we are still quite early on that we don't have all the data on which products are going to sell through, even if you were to do those sorts of activities. So even if you were to switch it out and put one product high, you could technically be ruining the experience for members that want to come back and they want to just buy that product that they like and just kind of bang it there and then and get it ordered very quickly. And obviously online is a convenient shop, right? When you go to Costco, it's about exploration. The store is an experience, right? And it's very hard to replicate that online. But in terms of the transactional moving products around, it's far easier to do, right? You don't have to kind of actually move stock around. You just move a panel product around and kind of rejig the order. We can kind of upsell, downsell, cross-sell. There's a lot of things you can do from a tech perspective online. But yeah, it comes down that the hardest part is that experience of having that almost in-store feel and support for what you're doing and kind of the discovery side. And I think fortunate thing about us is that because we do have members that are committed to coming back and buying, the discovery side is a big part of what we do. So they will come back, they'll look at our what's new section, they'll look at the stuff we recommend and we click through and they'll look at all the different things in their categories. And to be honest, a big thing we do that other stores don't, which again plays more into the convenience side, whereas Costco is price saving, but it's a bulk price saving. Obviously you still drive there, you still make a big order, you still take that order home with you, right? They don't do any real, I think they do online now, but they never used to at the start. But online is convenience, as I say. So one thing we do is we have about 50 different filters. So if you're keto but plant-based and got a kid that's got a gluten allergy, you can filter by all of those things and find all the products that actually are for you, right, and kind of matter for you most. So there's this balance with Well Easy where people like to discover, but they like to only discover what's right for them. And that's where kind of health is really specific. So that's what we've optimized for.
I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, I suppose. As you say, from an online perspective, it's actually relatively straightforward to make that happen, isn't it?
Do you have any tips for people that might be able to optimize their online store if they are selling a kind of consumable or some sort of service online? Do you have any sort of tips for how people can improve their online storefront?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're still doing it all the time, right? So there's a lot of learning still to be had. I think depending on the solution that you've got, so we're a retailer, right? So we have still a smaller range compared to most, but still a big range, 4,000 products. So what you tend to get in terms of habits as a business like us is basket driver products and kind of basket filler products. So your basket drivers could be like your protein powders or anything that someone tends to kind of come back and want to shop with you for. The more that the harder to find purchases, the stuff that drives the basket to some extent, and then you've got your basket fillers. However, you want to optimize as much as you can to show those basket drivers, because that's obviously where someone will perceive instant value of the membership. So if they come to the store, they see that your category image is this brand of protein, that is a much easier sell for them because they're like, I recognize that brand, that's a basket driver, I buy that often, and I save 20% with you guys. So that makes sense. So for us, that's kind of how we looked at those optimizations. So definitely, I think good product images and understanding where the customer sees value is a big one. And then obviously the basket fillers come later on in the journey. So, your coconut milk, your rice, your pasta, they can just add them as they go. That's definitely one way that I would look to do it. But again, it really does depend because you also want to have sell-through of every product. So you don't want to kind of just over-index on those products because you leave yourself quite vulnerable. So you want to kind of reinvent it and keep it new. And I think definitely content is a good way to do that, especially when you're curated. So for somewhere like us, where like trust is in every product that we have, content is quite important to have around it. So more often than not, if that's email or if that's on store, like product information, it's quite important to optimize for and kind of show that you know your stuff, you've chosen the product for a reason, and that builds the brand and the loyalty of what you do. So there are ways we've done it.
Yeah, because on content, I was going to ask, obviously because you have a lot of ethics around what you do, how has that impacted your kind of content cycle on social media and your strategy behind that? And I guess also finding your brand voice as well.
Massively. So we're still doing work on this like every day, and we've actually just kind of overhauled our content strategy the last month to really kind of harden it. So there's a lot more content to come out soon. For us, as I mentioned before, we're a facilitator of what health means to people. So we have to stay quite neutral, would be the wrong word, because I believe you should stand for stuff. So we stand for no ultra processed foods, no junk foods, kind of clean ingredient food is what we kind of stand for as a whole. And I think that has to, as you say, that has to carry through on content. So for us, we kind of have like 3 different tiers that we look at. So one is obviously the brand mission, what we do as a brand and a company, right? So we go direct to suppliers, we skip the high retail markups. Other places are going to charge you 20% on top of this product, on top of retail price. We're going to do the opposite, right? Try and save you money. So communicating why we exist is a big one for us. And we're trying to do that more now in terms of the brand story. Why we have the membership is a big one. The second is, again, as you mentioned, health information, right? The space is so confusing and everyone has so many opinions, which often cloud stuff. So how do you navigate that becomes very hard. But we just kind of sit with what's kind of grounded in fact is one that we do. So if it's like talking about collagen and the benefits of collagen, we only kind of say stuff that is generally out there, and we have nutritionists in the team that will do all of that content for us, right? As well as our affiliates. We have a massive affiliate network of nutritionists that will help write content. So kind of trusted educational health content. And then the last one is with the brands themselves, right? And kind of bringing those brands on board what we do, the journey of kind of why they're here with us, why they've chosen to be a part of that, and how we can bring those brands into the communication of what we do is the other way that we communicate our values, but also use the power of those brands to communicate our own value, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure if you have this information, but I'm curious to know, do you know why, sort of the main reason why the majority of your customers shop with you? Is it the discount? Is it the fact that you have ethics, that they want to support companies that they believe in? Or is it purely just for the health factor that you have the most choice? Do you have that kind of data?
We do, and we do a lot with our customers. So we get a lot of data back. I would say to you, the main reason, there is 2 reasons, but the main reason people come to us is that we are the one-stop shop for health and wellness products that there's never ever existed in this market before. And that is really simply just because they don't have to shop around at multiple places to do so. Because when you're doing that, you're paying shipping fees for an online brand, you're going to a store down the road, you're going somewhere else for this product, right? So that is the main reason people shop with us right now, is that convenience aspect of we are the first ever one-stop shop they have. The second is the prices. So they come for the products all in one place, and then they stay for the prices. That's kind of how we pitch the value of what we do. Yeah. And the prices kind of keep them in. And then obviously we've got some exciting plans ourselves with own brand and stuff that we're doing, which brings even more value back into this space on the price side. So that's really how it is. Come for the products and stay for the prices.
I was going to ask you about the own brand side, actually.
I'm
really curious about that. Okay, so you're developing your own products then alongside what you're selling at the moment?
We are at the minute, yeah. So kind of in the pipeline. So I can't say incredible amounts just yet, but some good products, a mixture of kind of your staples, but your staples for less. Good quality, but at much less price, and also then some quite unique products in this space.
Okay. I'm with you. And how are you? What did you sort of learn through that process of actually developing your own FMCG brand, if you like, alongside the products that you're already selling? Yeah,
so we're still learning it. So still quite early on to the launch of our own brand. So still learning a lot from it. 2 things I've learned. One is that I'm grateful that we started as a retail proposition first, as like that blend, because we have a lot of data for one, but also we have distribution, which is like one of the biggest things, right? True. Because you go to start a new brand, and you buy, I don't know, you try and negotiate an MOQ, say it's 1,000 MOQ. Well, if you've got no channels to sell that on, there's no chance you're getting for 1,000, right? If the shelf life comes down and down and down, you're kind of screwed with that. So I'm grateful that we kind of started and held off of our own brand until at this point and start to look at it. And we'll still build it slowly. By no means have we've got anywhere near the distribution to go launching like 100, 200 products overnight. But we've got some distribution to launch, say, 10, 20 in the next kind of year or so. So that's what we'll look to do. But simple conversations, fortunately we can see a lot of the supply chains that our brands have. So we can see sort of where they're getting stuff from, or we can speak to the brands themselves, right? And be like, okay, where did you go to do this product? Who did you speak to? Who was the supplier that you'd recommend, sort of thing? Have those conversations, tell them what we're doing, try and get them involved in the mission and the vision of what we're doing, why we need good margins, why we need to kind of have that up front to make this model work and to pass the savings on to the customers, and just getting people to kind of buy into the vision of what we're doing and the potential of it. As I say, we aren't just going to be a one product brand, we're going to be a multi-product brand, right? And that's kind of the long-term play. So it's kind of getting bought into that. Low MOQs, so low MOQs is minimum order quantity, and then good margin is the best thing to go for.
Why? Go on.
No, it's just very quick. Do you ship exclusively to the UK, or are you global?
We are UK at the minute. We do the UK, we do Channel Islands, we do Northern Ireland as well. And we're looking further afield, but just the UK really for the minute.
Why do you think no one's done this before? And I know that sounds like a really obvious question, but it sounds like a relatively obvious gap in the market when you think about it, in that there's one place you go to for all your healthy food. It's a similar model to the biggest food retailer in the world, and you think it just makes sense when you look at it objectively. So why do you think no one's actually done this already?
So I'd be lying if I said that no one has actually kind of tried this and done this, right? So there are some US companies that do something similar. I think the US are far more attuned to memberships in terms of customers, right? You've got Sam's Club, you've got Costco, you've got all the different kind of membership clubs out there. So they get that value, and they have bigger kitchens. They're used to buying in bulk. Everything's bigger there, right? So they get the value of that side of things. So the US is quite well versed in this, and there is a player in the US that's done something similar in the health space. So it was a big inspiration for us. So we looked at them a lot. There's some guys in France as well that have done a good job, but more kind of sustainability focused as opposed to just health. But obviously we have a focus on sustainability, but health is also the priority for what we do. But I think it's not the easiest model in the sense that you really have to have consumer habits in the right place. People need to see themselves being able to order frequently enough and placing big enough orders to actually make it worthwhile. If you were to just launch, if you would just launch it could be even a clothing brand, for example, right, with a membership model, it gets a lot harder because you don't see yourself ordering often enough. And if you do, you'd just be thinking, I'm going to be spending so much stuff on things I don't actually need or want. With food, you have a very good loyalty because you get through food, right? You eat food every month. So food is a great space to build these membership models in. But I think it's not as easy as maybe the US, because you do have customers that are used to it. So there's a lot more education that needs to go on here, but you just have to be valuable enough that the membership can work. So that's the biggest thing we kind of set out from day one. So people in the UK don't have the biggest kitchens, and maybe they don't stock up as much as they do in the US per se, but at least we know that in the health space, these are products that are hard to find elsewhere, so they do buy more of them online. If we can save them money, they'll buy even more of them online. And if you build a convenient enough service, they're going to turn online for most things in the health space. So it's kind of an ironic twist, but I think what makes the UK even better for health and this model is maybe we can't get the basket size that the US can, but at the same time, you have a much more fragmented health and wellness market here than you do in the US. It's quite well catered for in the US. They have a lot of bad food. They have a lot of healthy food, right? And there's a lot of solutions out there. In the UK, supermarkets are so dominated by Unilever, P&G, and the big players in the world, right? So if you're a brand new health and wellness brand, you are going to struggle so much to get on those shelves. And even if you do, you're going to be muscled down to the bottom shelf because you can't afford the promotions. Someone else is going to copy a similar version with even worse ingredients from Unilever, etc. So there's actually a bigger opportunity for a health and wellness proposition. It's just whether the membership can work well.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a second to talk about our sponsor for this episode, Furniture Box. Furniture Box is an online furniture retailer that makes awesome products for everywhere from your bedroom to your office. Now, we actually had Monty and Dan, the co-founders, on our show. That's how we met. We loved their story and we hung out with them afterwards, and we knew that we wanted to work with them. And here's the thing. One of the biggest issues I have whenever I've ordered furniture in the past is that certain big name furniture companies, not naming any names, will charge you a fairly large fee for delivery. And even then, that delivery usually takes a few days, if not longer. With Furniture Box, not only do they offer free next day delivery, but they're now planning on extending their delivery cutoff even more so that you can literally order a dining set as late as 8 p.m. and be eating dinner on it the next day. So to put it simply, there's no one in the UK furniture scene that's doing anything like what they're doing, and we're thrilled to have them as our sponsor. So click the link in the description and check them out. Now back to the episode.
Going back to the very beginning, in terms of actually getting it off the ground logistically, how does delivery work? Because this is the bit that I'm always fascinated by. Because if I think about the idea of, for example, the idea that you had, I think, someone makes an order in Dunkirk. Is that a case of, for 7 bags of nuts? Is it a case of you literally driving there yourself, or finding, how does the logistical side of it work when you don't have economy of scale?
Yeah, so that's where it gets hard, right? And that's where it's not the easiest margin to play with when you're shopping online, or when you're kind of fulfilling online. But no, it's kind of quite simple in the sense that order comes through. Usually we'll have stock of everything that is in that order. You pack it all together in one order, and we use the conventional systems, right? So the UK being quite a smaller nation and quite good with delivery, to be fair, they have cracked, the big supermarkets here have cracked frozen delivery. They've done quite well with deliveries. So we use Yodel as a courier. We've been through all of them. We've been through DHL, we've been through DPD and tried all of them. But at the very start, to come back to sort of how we started, it was just that order would come, we would go onto UPS, I would type in on UPS person's address, and batch print all these labels at the end of the day. I think we used Parcel to Go was like the aggregator, and that will show you the cheapest
I've used
options.
Parcel to Go.
Yeah,
I used to sell stuff on eBay, and I use Parcel to Go all the time.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So just it will show you all the options, right? And then you just kind of plug it in. At that point, you don't even think what unit economics are. I'm not even thinking. I wasn't even thinking that at the time. And you just send it out. It goes usually next day. You pay for kind of that sort of service, and usually gets to the customer. But we had a very big issue at the start, is that we sold a lot of plant-based milks. That was kind of a bestseller for us. We were literally like praying every time a plant-based milk order went out, because they would just get damaged every single time.
Oh, really?
So you take it to UPS, because someone would order like 10 milks in one, right? So you take it there, and I'd be like, fingers crossed, I'd be like, let's just hear that you got it there the next day.
That must be so frustrating, because it's completely out of your control, that as well.
The worst
and yet
thing.
The customers don't blame you for it as opposed to the delivery driver. That's tough.
Massively. And you're just shoving, paper towel, anything you can to try and protect it. But yeah, we had to cut it. We had to cut plant-based milks at the start, because it was causing too many issues with delivery.
You mentioned, obviously, at that level, because of just getting the product out, you weren't really thinking about unit economics or anything like that. Is there an argument, because we've been talking about this recently, is there an argument that at the early stages of a business, you almost can make the choice to try to forfeit profitability if you can, just to try to get the word out as much as possible, just to get as many orders through?
Yeah, I think so, 100%.
Kind of like the Amazon model, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, again, it depends on the model. If you're tech, for example, like, of course that's going to be the case, because you're not going to make revenue for a long time, so you're going to be paying salaries or trying to do things, so you're going to be burning money. So that's why their model exists in the way it does. I definitely think in a business like us, a more experienced or seasoned entrepreneur or people in this space, you could have definitely made a financial model at the start and kind of roughly projected where things were going to go, and done that in advance, and kind of roughly know that if you get to X amount of orders, you might get this sort of margin, and plan that out. But again, I think, would we have done it differently? Maybe I'd have spent a bit more time on the financial model, but I think you have to just get going to kind of get started. And yeah, you probably are going to lose money even at the start. Anyone else that's done a business in this space will lose money at the start. And that's why you kind of raise the money, is to kind of lose it, to figure it out, and kind of learn from there. So fortunately, we're in a much better position now. Still not per se like profitable, but again, not far off.
Did you have a business plan when you started? I'm curious.
No business plan. Actually, we had well, I laugh now. It is a business plan in some extent. That's what business plans used to be. Yeah. No, it's not. It's actually the opposite.
Literally.
No, it's actually the opposite. So it was a university competition. So we made a business plan. So we had like a 8-page document, right? But I'm laughing more because you don't even use those really today. Like, especially if you raise investment, right? All you need is a pitch deck and a financial model and some other stuff to go. But you don't really need like an 8-page document. So we did have a business plan. Not that any of it was true and any of it was probably accurate in terms of financials, but yeah, we did. But I didn't know at that time about pitch decks and raising money or anything like that. That was all kind of brand new, and that had to be learned as you went.
Yeah.
What's something that people don't know about the supermarket industry? Are there any dark secrets or things that people would be surprised to know?
The darkest secret, which isn't a secret, when you tell people, they get it straight away, but they don't think about it. But the supermarkets are never going to be healthy until those big giants of the world decide that they want to go healthy. And for them, it makes no sense to, because it increases their costs. There's not enough demand for what they're doing. They can't kind of sell through what they're doing, right? And when you've got shareholder profits in mind, it's far more profitable to peddle cheap products that sell more and you make more margin from. So I think it's more just the case of realizing that these supermarkets, and they are slightly getting better. I know Tesco have got this share action stuff coming in, but again, that's not from Tesco, that's from share action that have pushed that. But they're very, very susceptible to profits, promotions, marketing spends, right? And all the other stuff, because margins are low in supermarkets, right? They make most of their profit from all of these other kind of promotions, and where they can get sort of extra bits of money, they'll take it. And I think, as I say, most of these supermarkets for a long, long time are still going to be dominated by P&G, Unilever, any of the big brands, Nestle, and they're still going to push for market space. And what happens is that, as I say, a new brand comes along, and it could be, for example, let's take Hunter Gather or someone on our store that sells really well, it could be mayonnaise. They'll come onto the shelves, and they're very clean mayonnaise, no seed oils, no kind of nasty ingredients that are in there. And Unilever will just bring out a different type of mayonnaise, pay for promotion to push that mayonnaise all the way down the other side of the shelf, and eventually Hunter Gather get delisted because their sales aren't good enough for Tesco to actually make profit from.
Wow.
And their products are more expensive than Unilever's would be anyway. It's a really, really hard system to break. And I think the only thing that's going to break it is the consumer.
Are you optimistic?
I am optimistic. Yeah, I'm a naturally optimistic person. So yeah, I am massively optimistic. But there is a hell of a lot of education that needs to go on, because the education needs to increase demand. And that's not necessarily for people like us to be making more money, which would obviously be amazing, but just general awareness of ingredients and nutrients, and prioritizing that in our food system. It's just been completely lost. Like you go to European countries, you go to places like France, etc., and they really do choose organic products and things like that. And it's not even like they're not sitting there thinking, oh yeah, spiritually organic's better for me. It's just like that's ingrained in their culture to value the food that they're eating.
Yeah.
The UK just don't have that value.
No.
We don't have the same value on the food and the ingredients and the food chain and everything else. And I just got back from Japan, right? And Japan is like absolute advocates, so they don't even let you bring food into the country because they don't want it tarnishing their food system.
They're not. I didn't know that actually. Okay.
Very strict,
Wow.
And their beef is all their own. They only ever have their own meats. Their pork is, we talk about, like, in our space, obviously grass-fed meat is a big thing, right?
Yeah.
Grass-fed meat is obviously good quality. It's a given in Japan.
Right.
It's all grass-fed. Like, it's not. It's kind of all been that way, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it's just in the UK you really struggle with that.
And I also think
value.
there's a bit of a stigma in the UK, probably in America too, but I think there's definitely a stigma in the UK when you talk about health in terms of food. There is a bit of a thing of, like, you do get the impression of, like, okay, people call you like a yoga guy or like a this guy, and probably doesn't help that I've got a fucking man bun, but I mean, like, I think there is. Yeah, I know that came in.
If anyone's a stereotype, it's me.
That's the thing. But that's the thing. I thought that when you came in, I was like, okay, there's two of us now.
Yeah.
But I feel like that, like, when it comes to diet and stuff like that, I do think there's like a bit of a stigma where the minute you start to be like, hey, I'm thinking of being a bit healthier, everyone's like, oh, here he comes, Mr. Pilates, or
There is an element of that.
Yeah, and there is, and it becomes kind of like a virtue signaling sort of thing, doesn't it? Right, that tends to be the way it goes, and I think it's a good thing to some extent, because I think what happens is that people become genuinely appreciative when they become healthy, right? To an extent, they appreciate what they're doing for themselves. They become more respectful of themselves and how things are, but then it goes one further that, like, they're almost, it's bad to say, but they almost feel above you because you don't choose that way. You don't choose to live healthier. You don't make those choices that I do, but I know that I do. It's kind of like I make the right choices. So I think that is definitely a stigma that exists. And to be honest, I think that is a thing because, for a long, long time, it's only those that could afford to live healthy would afford to do so. So it's always been exclusive, and it's always been like a little cliquey thing. But I do think that's changing. But I think, as you mentioned, we need to break that because there is science behind this, right? And I think when there's fact behind anything, it's not about someone's opinion anymore. It's about fact. And that's what we need to get to in the health space as much as we can. So there are a lot more advocates now that are generally coming out with factual information about gut health, about the microbiome and stuff like that. That's not just like my own agenda of, I've eaten low carb today, and I've lost weight and I've got a six-pack, look at me. It's like, no, genuinely, our gut health is important. This is why eat for your microbes, and kind of it's the value. It's the value of the nutrition, I think, is what needs to be in there. So yeah, the stigma needs to be broken, but there is a stigma. Massively. Yeah.
Do you think there will ever be a day where we will have a definitive idea on what diet is, or do you think that is even the case, or do you think there will always be people who will be better on a meat-based diet, and there will always be people who would be better on a vegan diet or whatever it might be?
100%. Yeah, it is personal. It's. I think the future is massively personalised. I think that's the only way you'll really know what's good for you. And it's something we've known for years. Like if you go back, I'm a big classics nerd, but like Hippocrates, as nature's saying that like all disease starts within the gut, right? And one man's food is another man's poison. They're like his two biggest things. And this was over 2,000 years ago. He's talking about this. Like we've known for a long time that like it's very personal. And I think now that migration's been the way it is for years, and everyone is kind of in different places around the world, you're going to have more and more mixing of DNA. I did my DNA recently, and it's like I'm 12% French and 5% Scandinavian, right? And you think...
I really want to do that, actually. I still haven't done that, but I really want to do the ancestry.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to learn, and especially if you do the health ones as well. They're quite useful. Okay. But again, there's a lot more to be explored in that. But
what are the health ones?
They'll give you... So there's certain biomarkers now.
Yeah.
So they can understand that if you've got kind of a gene that could express as, like, for example, mine might have been like macular degeneration. So I had a gene that, although my eyesight's good now, told me that I'm quite likely in older years that my eyes will degenerate quite quickly. And my family is similar. If you look at my mum and dad, they've got quite bad eyesight in late years. So they can tell things like that. They can tell, to be honest, there are risks now. They can tell biomarkers for cancer. A biomarker is basically just like, how likely or the propensity that this gene could express in a various way. And if you've got certain genes, they can see if that's likely. It's not to say you're going to get it. They're not your destiny, but it's understanding what your makeup is. And this is the thing. Everyone is so different. And like as I say, like if I'm 5% Scandinavian, 12% French, rest Irish, UK, etc., like all of these people had very different cultures and food and grew up in different ways and just different biological makeups that meant they needed different foods.
But also with the biomarkers thing, like I don't even know if I don't know if I'd want to know that.
Well, I was just thinking that, and then I think actually, do you know what? I would rather know if there's going to be something that I can do my best to try and.
But I mean, if it's something
further
you
down the
can't
line.
prevent.
If
I
it's
mean,
something
I
that
don't
you
know
can't
with
prevent,
the
yeah.
eye thing that you mentioned. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's preventable or if it's not preventable or if it's even a big deal or not. But the idea of taking a test to find out there's something potentially medically wrong with me that I'm not going to be able to do anything about.
Yeah.
And now I'm just living with that info.
Or being told that the likelihood of you getting cancer is higher further down the line at some point.
Yeah.
That must be a very difficult.
It
piece of
would be
information.
difficult if the information given was this is going to happen, but that's not the case. It's like this is just your genetic makeup.
Yeah.
You've got a propensity for these things. There's millions of things, right? Oh my god, if I went down that list, I'll die tomorrow of like 1,000 diseases, right? So like they're not all going to
Take it with a
happen.
pinch of salt.
You have to take it with a pinch of salt, and you have to I think just be aware of these things, kind of live your life in accordance of that. You know, if you realise that, I don't know, you've got a history of family that have really high type 2 diabetes at quite an early age, and you don't even need a test to tell you that. Your family history could probably tell you that. Well, you focus on your diet more, and you probably then stall it until 80.
Yeah.
At which point, like, you know, it's probably a lot of people get diabetes when they're 80, sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, you know, it's good to know these things. But yeah, I get it, that there is also a scare to it. But I think, you know, I'm an optimist in medicine, and I'm an optimist in nutrition, and I just think the next 10 years are going to be so exciting that I would rather know now if I was going to have cancer in 2 years' time, because I believe there's going to be a treatment for it or a cure for it, right? Sort of thing. So like, you know, medicine should be going at the same pace that your awareness is. So I'd rather know those things.
As someone who runs a company that's based around healthy products, is there or are there specific bestsellers? Like, are there certain health products that are super popular? Because that could be an indication of their effectability, you know, their effectiveness.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. There's a mix, right? You get very good brands in the space, and whenever there's a good brand, obviously that can sometimes taint how good a product actually is. But still, the good brands for a reason. Their content's good. They probably have touched on something. But I think branding is a big one in D2C, and you get some very good branding, so that can obviously help. But no, there are products that genuinely do have an impact, and I think that's ironically, obviously, even my friends, you know, they're getting more and more into their health now than before. But when Josh and I first started, to them, a lot of this was just like, oh, it's just fads, right? That's the biggest word in health. It's just like, that's a fad, right? It's never going to be a thing. Yeah, and it does happen. And don't get me wrong, there are fads for sure. But no, there are certain products you can take that you genuinely feel a difference from. Like for me, creatine is a supplement that even when I was younger, I was just like, I'll never take that. It had all these stigma attached to it. I thought it was really bad for your kidneys. People told me that you get like kidney failure from it, all this other stuff. To me, I take it with water in the morning. I do feel it in my brain function.
Really?
And if anything, every workout I've done since might just be psychological, but again, it does make me feel a little bit more full, and I've noticed the difference, and I pay attention to things like that. So that, and even collagen is another one. Collagen. I've got a friend that had quite bad skin, and he's been taking collagen peptides, and he would never really touch many health products before.
Yeah.
But he just takes collagen in his cup of tea, just has a couple of times a day.
Yeah.
Skin is so different.
Really?
So
Wow.
different. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, we had Darcy Laceby on, actually, the founder of Absolute Collagen, and she gave us a few of the
Very
few
high
benefits
quality.
of collagen.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, it was interesting to learn about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, it's very good quality, and they're genuinely, they are the case. Food. I mean, I'm obsessed with it, but food does have power. Like, even again, when I was out in Japan, you have barley tea after you have a meal, right? And like, I didn't realize it's got really high melatonin in. So melatonin obviously to help you sleep. And like, again, I thought, oh, just a tea, it's not going to do much. I was so tired. I was gone. Honestly, and it's not just like psychological. I was literally saying to my girlfriend, I was just like, I'm exhausted. I was like, but in a nice way. I feel like quite mellow and stuff.
Okay.
Like, just a relaxant.
What was it called? Barley tea?
Barley tea.
Barley
Barley tea.
I should try that, actually.
It's nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just melatonin.
Yeah, basically,
It's just-
yeah,
it's
You
just-
can just pick up melatonin.
melatonin,
Yeah.
just from source. Yeah.
So let's say guys our age, right? Let's say they want someone who's completely out of shape, hasn't taken their health very seriously, and now they're at a point where they want to actually look after themselves and take their health far more seriously. What's your advice to them in terms of where do they start, and what are the sort of the basics that they should be doing to help them get in that direction or go in that direction?
I think so. For me, exercise is a staple. I think, you know, there is some evidence now. Even there's a good book by a guy called Peter Attia that's come out recently called, I think it's called, what's it called, Longevity or something. I'll find the name, but I can't remember what it's called. Or Outlive, I think it's called,
Outlive, okay.
or Outlast or something like that. And again,
Peter Attia is great.
a big summary, of that book is just like exercise is so important to healthy living, and it's like one of the most like fundamental things. That's not necessarily like a massive workout, right? You don't need to go and just like start chucking weights about and doing all that. You just need to increase the exercise you do. So for example, one recommendation I would have, definitely on the exercise front, then we can come into the other stuff, is, and I've been doing this a lot lately, is what they call kind of zone 2 cardio. Again, something Peter Attia talks about. So zone 2 cardio is defined by like being able to talk whilst you're running, right? So you could be fast walking, you could be running, you could be cycling, but you're still able to talk while doing it, right? And zone 2 is the most studied zone of exercising, and it's massively beneficial to both longevity but also to heart health and to heart function and things like that, right? And even I would class myself as fairly fit, fairly active, but I've been prioritizing zone 2 for the last like 5-6 months ish, and my resting heart rate at night has dropped from say like 44, 45 down to about 39 in terms of at night, and like it really does have an impact when you do it. So
and what does that mean, by the way? For some, I wouldn't know what the difference in a
general health. Again, another like
just a bit less sort of stressed, or a bit
less stress. Less stress. Just a healthier function. 39 beats per minute, so it's moving better and acting more efficiently, sort of thing. So that's all it is really. But yeah, zone 2 is just one example. But just getting more active and prioritizing exercise is by far the biggest one, because I think that also makes you want to choose healthier, because no one wants to come out the gym and just eat at McDonald's. That's just never. It's never a thing. I've never heard anyone say that.
Gym
right?
is actually the best thing for a diet.
Yeah,
it's the best thing.
I also think there's a massive. I was saying this to him the other day. I feel like there's a massive element or massive link between the gym and also mental health as well.
Massively.
And I think that's a huge, because I've noticed that myself. I mean, I know that whenever I go to the gym, I do feel a lot better when I come out of it. 100%.
And you could be doing, as I say, various things. It doesn't need to be one thing, but like you would never come out feeling bad or feeling like you've done something bad or wanting to go for like some junk food sort of thing, right? You do get that serotonin boost that you want to reward yourself. So that's definitely one thing. The second thing is, I wouldn't overcomplicate it too much with food at the start. I would definitely listen to other people in the space. There are some very like good people that, whether it's like on trend or not, I think people associate themselves with other people, right? And that becomes a big part of their identity. So podcasts like Andrew Huberman, Peter Attia, a bunch of other people out there.
His book's called
Outlive, yeah. Many other people out there that you can listen to, start to learn what they're saying, and it feels personal to you because you're listening to this little thing and it becomes part of your identity, right? You would have read like probably Atomic Habits by James Clear and stuff, right? And this whole thing about, become that person that you want to be, but like tell yourself you're that person you want to be. I am the sort of person that will take a cold shower. I am the sort of person, and more of that kind of thinking and logic is really important, because that will build a sustainable habit, which doesn't exist sometimes in people. They kind of go through waves of going to the gym, not going to the gym. So definitely listen to things. And then on the nutrition side, I would keep it really simple to start. Like optimize for protein. I think especially as guys, you mentioned about obviously men, for example, but men and women, but as guys, optimize the protein is good for you. It's good for testosterone. Red meats are good, but lean meats as well. But also you can find other forms of protein if you don't eat meat. But definitely I would optimize the protein. Most healthy cultures have a very good high protein diet. And the second, now more than ever, that I probably wouldn't have said before, but like optimize for gut health.
Okay.
So like eat a lot of fermented foods, and kind of see how that makes you feel. Take more kind of fibrous foods, a lot of plant variety. So mix up a lot of plant variety. Colors are also good when it comes to plants. But then I think if you're someone that's busy, like I'm sure you guys are, similar to myself, like there is a lot of room for processed foods. And now processed tends to have like a bad term, but like there's processed and ultra processed, right? Most food you eat is processed. A tin of olives is a processed food, right? So, optimize the processed food because they are there for convenience. And so whether that means that you take a protein powder, instead of having protein from source, or you decide that you're going to take a protein bar or a snack bar, or you're going to take kimchi in a tub rather than making your own, etc. Like it's all, optimized for convenience as well, and kind of allow yourself to not slip up where you can. So protein and gut health.
What are your thoughts on the meal replacement companies? And just on that point of having stuff on the go, so companies like Huel, for example, what are your thoughts on that? Because me and him have slightly divided opinions on it. So I'm curious to know what, given that you're in the industry, what your take on a business like Huel, for example, is.
Well, I'll tell you mine, but I want to hear yours as well.
Okay.
So we're here.
Yeah. So on my side, I'm a big advocate of the business. I've been buying their vegan protein powder for months now, if not maybe up to a year.
Yeah.
And I've tried their other products, but I'm less keen on the other products. I used to have their like meal to go in a shake, if you like, the liquid meal. And that I used to enjoy, and it tasted great, and it did actually fill me up. Not to the point of a proper meal, but it was enough to give me what I needed at that point in time. Those are the only two products. I have tried the other ones that I'm less keen on, but I'm quite a big advocate of the business, but I know that there is an element of needing to sort of masticate your food to actually get the process that you need to do that, which I know that he's sort of been hammering home to me as well about it. But yeah, overall, I'm a big advocate.
Yeah, that's kind of he kind of made my point, which is essentially that I'm not a huge fan of it because I don't think we should be encouraging people to liquefy their food, and I think that mastication just to
just to reiterate,
podcast took a turn.
Don't take us off YouTube, please. I do think that is incredibly important, and I think it's underrated, and I think you need to chew your food, and you do lose nutrient absorption from what I understand. I've spoken to a few doctors about this. I am by far from an expert. I'm a moron on this subject, but from the people I've spoken to, you do need to you get more nutrient absorption by chewing your food.
I would echo the points.
Okay.
Yeah, generally that would be my view as well. I as I say before, there's a difference between ultra processed and processed foods, and I think if you're looking at the ingredients list, there's not the worst things in Huel. Maybe there's a couple of things that you would question, but again, a lot of the stuff the jury's out on, right? There's certain sweeteners that are banned here in the UK, but in the US they're used in a lot of stuff because there's a lot of good science. So monk fruit is an example of that, but you can't have it here in the UK. So there's a lot of.
Do you know why that is? Monk fruit.
Monk fruit, yeah, monk fruit.
I've
sweetener.
heard of monk fruit.
Yeah, I think maybe just because it's quite a high
Sugar content.
Not necessarily like sugar content. I don't know if there's other things in it like an acidity content or whatever that may well have been linked to like I don't know various liver issues or something like that, right? So there'll be something on it. It's the same with there's a new type of alcohol in the US called Kava, Kava, that comes from like the Venetian islands or the Vanuatu islands, sorry, and again it gets you drunk without the hangover. So it's like
interesting.
So they've got Kava bars in the US, right, and things like that. Okay. But because there's, I think, someone in Europe potentially that was drinking it, consumed it, had kidney failure, the same as most alcoholics or people that abuse alcohol would, right? But it's been banned here in the UK. So it's like I think regulation is kind of slow on those things. But coming back to the original point, most of the ingredients in Huel I would go with. Again, I would just say the point about mastication, and but yeah, just chewing food is important. I think that's how we've done it for years. And I think there's a lot of science on certain cultures when they do liquefy food, their whole jaw will change shape and everything changes, right? So you need to use those muscles.
Yeah, like mewing and stuff like that.
Mewing and
mewing
things
is
like that.
a huge thing.
What's mewing?
Mewing is essentially it's Dr. James Mew, but essentially it's the idea that the way that you chew your food and the way that you position it will essentially affect the sort of
your jaw almost
it will affect your jawline, and it will show people who have weak jawlines compared to who have strong jawlines, and essentially up until the age of 25 your jaw is completely like malleable. Essentially, I'm saying this very loosely, but essentially he recommends like chewing very hard gum, like for kids when they're young, breathing through your nose as opposed to breathing through your mouth. When you breathe through your mouth, it weakens your jaw, all this kind of stuff. And I've seen videos of people where they talk about how they've done mewing in the before and after and stuff, and it is remarkable. I mean, you have people with just the worst jawline, and then they look like fucking someone on Hollywood or something. It's crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about your opinion on because this is something I've wondered for a long time. Supplement pills in terms of things like cod liver oil, magnesium, vitamin D, the kind of pills that people take on a day-to-day basis. Half the time I think people say as long as you have your main three, you have like omega-3, you have vitamin D and maybe magnesium or vitamin C, and then some people that are just like it's all bollocks, like it doesn't really make a difference, you don't notice a difference, whatever. And I feel like, for one, if I'm being really honest with myself, I take vitamin D. I used to take more, but I pretty much take vitamin D, omega-3, and occasionally like vitamin C if I want a bit more of an immunity kind of boost. I don't, other than the vitamin C, I don't feel any different. I just kind of take it because I've been told that I should just take vitamin D because we don't get enough vitamin D in the UK, especially because we don't have enough sun. But I'm kind of just taking it. I don't really know if it's working or not because I don't take like omega-3 and go, my brain's working better. Yeah. What do you think on that? So there is room for supplementation, I think, in modern day healthy lifestyles. Reason being is because I think, especially again, I feel like I'm saying bad things about the UK, but the food system has become less nutritious. The food we produce is less nutritious, right? There aren't as many nutrients in food as there used to be. So I think there's definitely room for supplementation because you're not going to be getting all of the needs. Go on. Why is that? Just quickly, why has the food become less nutritious?
Over farming,
right.
Just the inefficiencies have gone in agriculture, kind of mass producing corn and other things, turning just turning topsoil wrong is kind of caused it. So again, this is why we're quite big advocates of regenerative agriculture, right? Because the topsoil has just been absolutely destroyed, and that contains most of the nutrients. So there's a lot of nutrient deficient food that you're not going to get as much in today. So I think there is room for supplementation when that is the case. But my honest answer would be, again, you're not really going to know until you do any of the kind of the data stuff, right? And the wearables, or the kind of, you can do glucose monitoring, or you can do the blood samples that you can send off to labs now, and they'll come back and tell you if you're nutrient deficient. I think there's some great companies out in the US. One is called ELO Health, which does monthly blood samples or blood work that will show you the impact that the actual supplementation is having, right? So they would get all of your data, they'll see what you're actually deficient in, they'll then put you on a protocol of supplementation, and then you can see it then. But I think until you get that, because it's at the cellular level, right? So it's the difference between you thinking, I'm going to take vitamin D and I'm going to feel energized or buzzy today, the difference between, no, you're going to take vitamin D and maybe in 40 years time you don't get cancer that you will have otherwise got, or you don't get some disease. That's kind of the difference that it will have. It's not necessarily in the day-to-day, I'm going to feel amazing, which is what marketers will push out in terms of supplements. They'll push out that instant benefit, and it's never that. I've never taken really a supplement and felt like an instant benefit or a difference, unless they're kind of stronger than just your kind of conventional supplements, right?
No, I haven't either. I mean, I take multivitamins every day, but I don't have that feeling. Although actually, ironically, I do have that after I have Huel. I do have a small kind of a small buzz. Not a buzz, but you just feel your cognitive ability feels a lot better at that point once I have that. I don't know exactly what ingredient it is that goes into it, but I do notice it every time I have that protein shake.
It could well be the case. Could be well be the case for you. But yeah, until you do some of those tests, that's going to be the best way to show. So the blood work tests, and there's Omnos here in the UK, which is a great one. Okay. So we partner with Omnos, so Omnos are good.
Okay. I have that with nicotine and with coffee as well.
Yeah, again, so strong, slightly stronger. Yeah.
Taking a stimulant. Yeah. No, but I was saying this to a friend of mine the other day, because I don't really drink coffee, but occasionally, if I'm really tired or I haven't slept well or I need to wake up a little bit for work or whatever, and I have an espresso, I just have one shot of black coffee. I find it very beneficial and I don't get any of the negatives. And I was talking to a friend of mine about this who's way more knowledgeable on this stuff, and he was like, yeah, if you use something like coffee as like a kind of tactical micro drug when you need it, you get loads of benefits and you don't really have any downsides from it. You don't get the lethargy or the withdrawals or the headaches or anything like that. So I found that to be quite beneficial.
Some people would say, so there's a guy, I think it's Michael Pollan, I want to say, is a specialist in sort of the psychedelic field, but coffee can actually be I think they say coffee is a psychedelic.
Really?
Yeah, if you go without it for long enough and you take enough of it, it can be a psychedelic, but it's a bit of a strange one. But I agree with you, a lot of these things should be used tactically. I think a far more educated person than myself would probably tell you that like coffee, nicotine, etc. is probably a different pathway to like vitamin D's and sort of where they come in. But yeah, it does get harder with supplementation because you're just like, you don't feel some real impact or benefit from it, but it still is having the benefit. You just it's on the cellular level.
Going back to the business, can you just talk us through the fundraising process and sort of how you found it, what you've learned, and what you think the benefits of fundraising are versus trying to bootstrap it yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So if we go from, so hopefully this connects the story. So we go from garage, Shopify store, packing orders, right, and shipping those out. So again, that was scaling up. We got to maybe about 300 members, so that were on kind of our annual membership, just from home. Orders were coming a little bit too much to handle at that moment in time. So two things happened. One is we looked for fulfillment companies. So we were like, okay, we can't keep packing this ourselves. It's quite unproductive to do so, taking a lot of time out of our day. We're probably doing a shoddy job of it and probably costing a lot of money and wastage. Looked for fulfillment companies, found an amazing fulfillment partner that we'd used in the previous business with the snacking business, the Snacks S1. So we kind of already had a good relationship with him. So we're like, look, this is what we're doing now. This is kind of the new concept. Can we come and do this with you? So that was like the first thing. So we moved that out. Again, probably paying a little bit of a premium for that service, but again, saved us some time. But then we realized, okay, probably about 5K of cash in the bank and kind of teetering on profitability and break even if we were even paying ourselves at that point. I can't remember. And then we decided, okay, we need to try and raise some money for this thing. It's kind of a similar model has worked elsewhere. Let's see what we can do in terms of raising money. So we first, like a lot of people, we thought, okay, how do we raise money? Tends to be the thing. So I asked around a few different people, kind of previous startups that worked out how they'd done it. Then we did the conventional, do we have any friends and family that have got any money at all to kind of put into this business? And we only found one person, which was one of Josh's family friends, that fortunately had a little bit of money to put into the business at the start. But other than that, I don't come from that sort of background, so we didn't have any people around us that would put in 10, 20Ks of little small investments, right, which you need at that moment in time from angels. So we had a little bit from this family friend of Josh's, but then that was enough to kind of keep us ticking. And then I said, all right, we're going to go out and do the full round. So by that time...
Just on that, how did you know you were ready to take on or do the full round?
I guess two things. One is I didn't to some extent, but at the same time I thought, you know what, everyone else seems to be raising money. At some point we're going to be raising money, and we're growing, we've got revenue, we're generating revenues, we've got a business model that's kind of been done elsewhere. So like most of the proof points that I think someone would be like, is this going to work, are kind of have been done. And it's quite a simple model, right? You explain what we do to people and they either get it or they don't. Yeah. It's not like a brand new like AI business where they're just like, oh, how does that work, sort of thing. So I think it was just a matter of time. So whether it was then or 4 months later, I think all that meant is that if we raised then, I could probably take a salary, Josh could take a salary, and I could probably move in with my girlfriend to live there, and then we kind of carry on building. So that pretty much informed it. And then fortunately, quite early on in starting the business, so I think it was during that kind of process, I was obviously sitting on LinkedIn day in, day out, just searching angel investor in the search bar, finding a bunch of different people. And Julian Khaled came up, who was one of the co-founders of Made.com, which was a big, obviously, furniture giant. And he had in his bio that he was interested in health and wellness founders for a business. So I messaged him on LinkedIn, didn't think too much of it, managed to get a coffee with him, went and sat down with him, me, Josh and him. Turns out, before we could even start speaking, he started to pitch that he had this idea that was pretty much well easy.
Oh, really?
About health and wellness groceries, membership model, how could that work, right? So we were kind of there, we're just like, well look, like we're young, we're dumb, just come and work with us. So I think he obviously became quite fond of us, took a punt on us, gave us again a bit of money to start, and then also came and joined us as a chairman in the company as well. So he's been with us kind of since the start. So he became very useful in that fundraising process. So the next step then was again back on LinkedIn. Any connections that Julian had, anyone that I could connect with in that space, health and wellness, angel investor in health, angel investor in wellness space, anything like that, connected on LinkedIn, and just calls after calls after calls. Fortunately, if we managed to get on them, I must have done about 400 calls. And we raised in that first round about £400,000 in total.
Okay. And how did you value the business at that point?
Like that.
Really?
It's really, it's hard. It's very hard to know. And I think, my God, back then, very different to what you get now. If we were starting out now, to some extent, I think if we were starting this now, we would probably have to be profitable from day one and grow it in a different way. But the market was different then. So just said, look, like I think we initially went out with a 2 million valuation, and then we had enough demand and interest that we said we're going for 2.4 pre-money. I think we ended up with. But again, it's just numbers.
With the LinkedIn thing, what are your I don't know, what were your experiences with that? Because I feel like on the one hand, I feel like sometimes when I'm on LinkedIn and I see messages come through that aren't from people I'm connected with, I feel like I just disregard it, almost like a promotion on Google. But then at the same time, I will send messages to people and I will expect them to get answered. So it's a kind of a dichotomy. It doesn't really make much sense. But like, did you find much success with that? And do you have any tips for it for people that might be using LinkedIn to kind of do cold outreach?
So there's a few things that I did, and again, fortunately, Julian was very active with us at that moment in time. So LinkedIn is it's a hard one to navigate. It is very cold, and there's a lot of crap on there that people just disregard and throw to one side. You have to make the message interesting from the start, and I spent a lot of time kind of trying to perfect the copy. And what I eventually boiled it down to was that a simple, like really simple, maybe 2-sentence paragraph of like, hey, my name's Sonny, co-founder of Well Easy. Currently 80% through our first round of fundraising, and even if you're 60%, you say 80%, right? Or you drive more FOMO that way. 80% through, 400k committed or 310k committed. Membership models make health. Just really, really condense it, really simple. And there and then, people, there and then, and people that are actually interested are going to be like, oh, actually, okay, yeah, this sounds interesting. But keep it vague, but just keep it exciting. So you want, you want the traction going of the round. You want a bit of description about what you are. Would love to talk to you if you're interested. No worries if not. I always finish with no worries if not, because it's just like, we don't need you. It's like, you need us sort of thing.
That's
Not
a
That's a good tip, actually.
Yeah, but we did need them. So
Don't know that.
We'd love to have you on board, but if not, go fuck yourself.
But really, if you want to come on board, that's fine too. So that was kind of it. And then the other thing that I did with Julian, and again, fortunate if you get some right people around you that really care and want to do with you, is that Julian and I spent a lot of time that I would find some of those tools where you could find someone's email. I can't remember the name. Maybe
we used Apollo.
There's Apollo, and there's one called Phantom Buster as well, I think, where you can kind of extract emails. And then there was
you got it. All right, nice, cool.
And then there's an even better one. There's an even better one. I'll send you it after. I can't remember it now, but if I can't remember it now, it's not going to help people listening. I'll have to find it, but it's a really good one.
Okay.
And you just type in, you put in someone's LinkedIn URL,
yeah,
and it comes up with their email address, but it also will check how viable that email address is. So it will check if an email's been sent to it in the last 2 months and how active it is. So you get a very active email address, because a lot of times it can bounce otherwise.
Yeah.
And I can't think of the bloody name, but I'll
if you think about it,
so yeah, definitely let us know that.
I'll let you know that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we collated a bunch of these email addresses, and we decided that we would try and get hold of these people as much as we can. So Julian sat down with me, and he then kind of leveraged to these people and said, look, reaching out, I'm chairman of Well Easy sort of thing, and said, I managed to get your contact details, X, Y, Z, right? So kind of he got them from me, but said he got them kind of from his network, was kind of how he did it. And managed to get call. It was CC me in, we get calls set up. He would come on the calls with me. Like, he was almost like a third co-founder at the start. And he would jump on those calls, and we'd do it that way. So just having someone with a bit of credibility was useful in getting those intros back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think saying that it's coming from, I got your details from someone in my network, I think that's actually quite powerful.
Yeah, the worst thing is when they go, oh cool, who? And you go, that doesn't matter, does it?
Let's go cool.
Let's
focus on the product.
Exactly. Of course, if you can get a warm intro, it's always the best. Right? Like, if someone can intro you, so always look and think like, so there's two things we did. You can obviously find VC websites and see sort of who they've invested in, but you're only going to get like the bare minimum. You're better off going on Company's House. So for example, let's say you wanted to start a podcast business, and there might be another podcast agency that's raised money, or a podcast business that's raised money, or some other media business. Go on Company's House, find the confirmation statement of that company, and you can see all of their list of investors. And if you know anyone at the company, then you say, hi, I just wonder if you can intro me to one of your investors there.
Okay.
And that's the best way to do it. Like,
that's a real gold nugget. That's a gold nugget.
Way of doing it, actually. That's interesting.
That's the best way to do it.
Sonny, at the end of every interview, we like to ask all of our guests the same question. Obviously, as you know, we focus on the practical. So for anyone out there that might be thinking of starting a business or might already have a business, if you could give one piece of practical advice, so something more tangible and actionable, what would that be?
So I've said this a lot of times, but it's the same thing, and I'd always say it. You have to do something every single day that makes your idea seem more real than the day before. Right, so people overcomplicate the long game. They want to jump from 0 to 10,000, right? When the first step needs to be 0 to 1. So what can you do today that just makes that idea seem more real? It could well be you draw up a business plan. It could be that you record a podcast just of yourself introducing the podcast, right? And get a mic, right? Or just buy the mic is the first step, right? Whatever you do has to be a daily action that makes it seem more real, because if you lose that momentum, you'll kind of lose the stopping part for one. But two, it just has to be a daily thing. You have to make it small and just do it. So for us, snacks in a box. Order the snacks, order the boxes, get in the garage, sit on LinkedIn. That made it more real, right? We had the stock then, we had to move it, otherwise we just kind of lost out. So, everything you do, every action you take propels the next action more. But just do something every day that makes it seem more real in your head than the day before.
I love that.
It's a really good piece of advice. I like that.
Really great. That's so helpful. Dude, this has been an amazing conversation, man. And it's a really cool company, and it seems like, your head's clearly in the right place, and I think it's really exciting. So honestly, man, wish you all the best with it. This is your moment. You can plug middle cameras over there, or straight directly in front over there. Where can people find you?
You can come and find us at www.welleasy.co.uk, or you can find us on any socials at Welleasy UK, and come and join. Take up the free trial. There is also an offer. We do £10 off for your first order. So when you come over to Welleasy, take up that offer, try it, see it, save money with it, see what our mission is all about, and then decide if the membership's for you. And we welcome anyone that wants to join.
Nice and simple. Guys, another amazing conversation as always. If you did like the video, please make sure to subscribe. We need to get the subscribers up and turn post notifications on. We've got some amazing conversations coming, and obviously rate us 5 stars and review us on all of your audio streaming platforms if you are listening, as always. But Sonny Drinkwater, thank you so much for being here, man. Real pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Really awesome.
My pleasure.